From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
Energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, we heard from Coach Mike Norvell and all of his assistants on Tuesday. We distill it down, and we also yap a lot about what we think this preseason is going to look like. Buckle up. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it and take it. The number one pre-workout, the Vitamin Energy Workout Plus. Energize up to 7 hours, packed with vitamins, tastes great. Sour apple taste does indeed taste great. No sugar crash. Just, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, some calcium, some magnesium, some sodium, some potassium, some citrulline, some natural caffeine as well to get you going, and some beta-alanine as well. Like all the things that are in that powder pre-workout that you've got to mix and makes a mess is pretty much chock full in this one little bottle that you can carry everywhere with you. It's called Vitamin Energy, everybody. VitaminEnergy.com. Sip the juice. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Try us. You'll like us. And you'll only need $1. That's right. $1 for a week of access to Warchant.com. And we can't give you specifics. But here in the coming days, weeks, there's going to be an added perk that's really going to be a cool part of being part of the On3Warchant.com community. Can't give you more details, sorry, but I'll confirm once it does drop. I'm like, that's what it was, everybody. That's what I meant. Corey Clark's here, everybody. We can now rejoice. I can stop talking for a few minutes, actually several minutes. Corey, put us on your shoulders, carry us to great distances. How are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. I can't carry you to great distances with just that question. But also, do I know what's about to happen? That you were just alluding to?
If you'd have checked the company Slack or the Warchant Slack, you would know.
Yeah, so I do. Oh, yeah, big time stuff, everyone. Hang on and hang tight.
All right, so I didn't get a chance to listen to headlines, but I'm sure you, Jeff Cameron, and Irish O'Fell distilled all the key points from Mike Norvell and the coaches' luncheon that we had on Tuesday, which is always an awesome thing. All the coaches were there, very gregarious with their time, or is that generous with their time? Gregarious in nature, I guess, perhaps. Sure. Let's start with Mike. Corey, it felt like I'm going to be honest, I kind of checked out after question 3 or 4. It seemed like he really wasn't going to be giving us any really true insight. I don't think he was being combative or evasive, but he just didn't seem to have a lot of specifics. Not that he's really been chock full of those in previous sessions, but what was your kind of big picture, I guess, macro look at the way that Mike shared information about his program?
Yeah, I would say the thing is, though, is there's not a lot to share right now. Like everything is kind of there's a lot of nebulous right now. We don't. It's a lot of talking, but it's like what could he share? Like if he tells us that so and so has looked great in July, well, what does that even mean? Practice starts today. So anything they've done before today kind of doesn't matter. Not in our perception of what this player is going to be or what this season is going to be. Nothing before right now, as we're talking, matters. Yeah, man, you lifted a lot of weights. Or you looked like you were in good shape in
the body comps
drills.
Yeah, the body comps.
Yeah, the body comps. That's awesome. Great. Who cares? What are you going to look like for the next month? Getting ready for Alabama. That's all that matters. So that's what I'm interested in. Now that practices are officially closed, we're not going to sit here and complain about it. It's just the reality. Practices are closed, and I mean close. Like I think we get, what do we get, like probably 10 minutes today, and that's a wrap until Alabama?
I think so.
So, so with that being the case, it's what they say in the next month about particular players, guys that have stood out, guys that have looked good. That's what we're going to care about and really listen to and hone in on is what he says about players when he's asked specifically about them or asked about who's standing out. And that's what I want to hear if he's excited about. As he mentioned, he alluded to, he's smart enough to know every coach in America talks about how hard their team has worked in the offseason. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what he said on Tuesday. that, yes, they've worked really hard, but he understands everybody's saying that this time of year. I'm interested in what he's saying a week from now when we ask him who's been his best player on offense, who's been his best player on defense. Now, he might, I'm not going to say he's going to dodge the question, but if I ask him, and I plan to, 5 or 6 practices in, hey, man, who's been your best player through 5 practices? Not saying they're the best player on the team. Who's been your best player on offense through 5 practices? You know Norvell, Aslan. He might name 8 guys.
Yeah.
He might name 20. Yeah. But it will be telling who he names first, who comes to his brain first, and that's kind of what I'm interested in. Since we can't make those decisions for ourselves, which again is fine. But if we're leaning on him for information, I'm going to ask for real information. And I hope he gives us real information about guys that have looked good. But, yeah, as far as like what he said about the offseason and what it means for this season, it's words, man. We'll see. We'll see. I do think he genuinely likes this team, though, don't you? Like that. I guess that's what Jeff and Ira and I talked about is he and these coaches that we talked to on Tuesday, and all those videos are up on our YouTube channel. They're up on warchant.com. Every single one. It's like 12 of them. 12 different videos with 12 different guys, or 10 with 10, whatever it is. Go watch them. But I do get the sense that they are kind of confident in the team they put together. Don't you?
No, I don't have they're not oozing, teeming with confidence. I feel like it's very much what we heard last year, which was like, I like these guys, I like the way they're practicing, but we'll see what happens in the moment of truth.
I guess I'm not talking about Norvell that much. I'm talking about Malzahn, Tony White, Papuchis, the guys that I talked to. Now, I didn't listen to the Malzahn interview yet. Guys, you need to.
Off the jump, I mean, he pretty much admitted that, spring was not optimal because they didn't have any of the continuity because of all the injuries. But he was glad to hear about the amount of guys that were able to participate and get together and do things in the offseason during player run stuff. So he is happy to hear about that. But, I mean, he pretty much...
Herb Hand talking about, 8 guys that he seems to be pretty confident in. Obviously, the 5 transfers. But then, he mentioned Lucas Simmons, almost off the jump, which is good to hear.
Yeah.
We know about Otto. So maybe there's a chance that they have 7 or 8 guys that they really like. But I just think, I don't know, man. I think that, Malzahn, the way he talked about the offense and the offensive line and the running back room, it's not – I think it's not like I don't think he thinks he has the 2013 Auburn team or the 2013 Florida State team, but I do think they feel optimistic-ish about what they have. But again, it's almost like who cares? Tell me what you think in a week.
Yeah.
I want to know what you think in a week. And now we're going to have to read body language. We're going to have to read between the lines some. But I'm genuinely interested in what these longtime veteran assistant coaches, as well as the head coach, think about this team after they've seen them in a week. For a week of practice. You know what I mean? I'm genuinely interested in what they think they're seeing.
All right, folks. We'll talk to you in a week then. Thanks for tuning in.
Until then, who cares? Who cares? Let's talk about anything. Fantastic Four, Superman. I don't know if you've seen any movies, Aslan, lately.
I have not. I've heard both were great, though.
I heard Superman was good.
Yeah.
That's good enough for me. I'm not going to go see it in the theater because who's got that kind of money or time? But I am interested when it comes out on streaming. I'll watch the James Gunn Superman, absolutely.
Okay.
Apparently he has a dog, though.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm all about Superman with a dog. That's a little too much. Superman doesn't need a pet. Well, but what are we doing?
Batman had Robin.
Sorry. But Robin was a person.
I know. But...
Batman didn't have a cat. Hey, little Toonses, do you need to be fed? I don't need Superman with a dog. But apparently it's a pretty big part of the movie.
Let me ask you this, though, Corey. I mean, I know you haven't been in these rooms and putting together these workout plans, but I think one of the questions I heard was somebody was asking for some specifics from Mike, which I think, and I've been guilty of this too. Whenever you ask somebody, can you tell me something specifically that you feel better about, about this team or this coaching staff or your game going, it instantly becomes some sort of defense. All right, red flag is going up. I can't answer this question truthfully. I need to be kind of evasive about it. But that's what I think people are trying to get to, that we understand the need, the desire to have that edge. Well, can you tell us what you did?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was what he did mention, that everything seemed to have some sort of competitive competition element to it. So I'm guessing they broke these guys up into teams, and it was all about, like, if your team wins, you get some perk, or if you lose, there's going to be some kind of punishment. So I guess that is, that was one of the specifics that he did mention. So I need to give him props on that. But otherwise, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of what I've been hearing from Coach Storms, right? Is that these guys they're dialed in, they're plugged in on a different level. What I've been hearing back from player-run practices is a team that has a lot of camaraderie, has a lot of understanding of where everybody needs to be, and I think there could have been some more of those crayons pulled out to kind of color in a picture of a really kind of dreary offseason, and not really relative, not specifically to Florida State, but any program right now at this point doesn't have a lot of idea. There's not a lot of vivid detail of what's been going on. I just would have liked to hear some, perhaps more things that he feels are instrumental factors into giving this team an edge and having them play better from Jump Street. I mean, is that not fair, or is it just, Mike's going to do what Mike needs to do at this point just to preserve and move on to the next day and keep coaching?
Yeah, look, man, I think I wrote about it on Tuesday about, like, it's almost like the time to talk about and write about 2024 is kind of done. It's on to 2025. Actually, Ira brought up a good point when he was talking about opening up the practices to the media, and why he thought it might have been a good idea for Norvell, is because if we're out there today writing about what we see, then we're kind of sparking excitement for what we see. And it's not so much about 2024, it's about the excitement of 2025. If we're telling you that Cromwell had a big run, or Deuce Robinson had 3 touchdown catches, then all of a sudden you're more excited about 2025 than you are lamenting 2024. But the flip side is that, Alabama's the first game. So I get that too. You don't want anything to leak. You don't want to jeopardize anything at all by opening your practices and then Kalen DeBoer finding it out. But that said, going to your question, man, I just don't know what he could tell us about competition in May or February that matters at all. Like, I do think you want to breed a competitive spirit, but I don't know that, he wouldn't go into details. I don't know what it means. He said they would finish every event with some sort of competition, but I don't know what that means. It's not a football game. So how does that pertain to what's going to happen on August 30th? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know. I do know that it's refreshing to understand unequivocally that the head coach of the Florida State football team realizes he had maybe the least competitive team on the Florida State campus last year. I don't even think it's maybe. You think of every sport on the Florida State campus, all 20 of them, the one that was least competitive, and I don't mean just had the worst record, I mean least pride, played with the least amount of competitive spirit of any team on campus, was the football team.
Yeah, but
that's an embarrassment.
They seem to not care whether or not they won or lost at some point in that season.
You could not say that about the women's tennis team, the men's golf team, the swimming and diving team. Like, all of those teams had more competitive spirit than the effing football team. And that's an embarrassment. And so it emboldens me a little bit, or encourages me is the better word. It encourages me a little bit that the head coach realized how unabashedly embarrassing it was to be no competitive spirit at all. And that was lost in Ireland, and it never came back. And so it is at least buoying, if that's a word, that the head coach is trying to, ferment that. I don't know if that fits.
I like that, yeah.
That's okay, but
Foment?
He's trying to build that. Yeah, he's trying to ferment that, a competitive spirit in this team, because it was absolutely missing. Now, you could argue that talent was missing too, a quarterback was missing, an offensive line. All of that matters too, but man, they just didn't compete. They didn't seem to care. They didn't play with any competitive fire. And so he's trying to bolster that any way he can. That's fine. But it also, what if he told us, we had 40-yard dashes after every workout? or, oh, they had a marshmallow roasting contest. Whatever the competition would be, none of it matters or really pertains to what happens on August 30th. You just hope they build it from within, and they like each other, and they play with a competitive fire that was obviously missing last year. But they're also going to have more talent, and they're going to have more coaching talent, and both of those things help a great deal.
He's mentioned this a few times, Corey, when he's been asked about his new role and having Gus, and he's talking about, like, this is, student athletes, this is as difficult as it's ever been for them because of all the things they need to balance. And then for him as a coach, he's now able to tap into that and see guys that are maybe distracted and reach out to them and try to be more of a mentor and be more hands-on, like emotionally leader-wise, as opposed to just having to worry about the next play because I'm radioing it in and everything. That, maybe you had a team last year that was worried more about getting to the NFL, getting the best NIL possible they could possibly get, and it's, okay, I get that, but we need to also remember that the most important thing is to win football games. So let's get back to focusing on winning, whether that's pushing a sled. There were some videos in the climb where it looked like, there's 5-6 guys pushing a sled and they're being encouraged by other guys. So I'm sure there was like accountability group. So I think there's some part of that helps reset a culture, right? That absolutely failed you last year or was completely not present. And to get some of that back is just to get the basics, which is win. Like find the thirst to be a winner and to compete at the most, fervent ability that you have in you, because that's part of the edge, right? When you talk about having the edge, it's like, I don't want to lose. So I know that trying to block a 350-pound defensive lineman from Alabama is different than pushing a sled or running around a hula hoop faster so that your team can win something. But man, there's something that portends to that spirit that's going to carry you over in the middle of a 98-degree August day against Alabama, I feel like.
Yeah, it should. Pride, competitive spirit, whatever gets you there, talent, it has to be better than it was last year, and it will be. I was thinking about this today. Somebody had a question on headlines about it that I didn't ask, but I read it in the Facebook comments. Like, it almost doesn't matter what happens in the Alabama game, in the sense that I still feel like this season is going to be much better. They could get embarrassed, and while we won't feel good for that week or that month, it's going to be better, man. It's going to be a better season. I do believe that, because I believe in these coaches more than I believe in Norvell. There's no reason to believe in Norvell anymore. That's kind of where we are. When you go 2-10, you don't get any benefit of the doubt. But Tony White and Gus Malzahn have earned a lot of benefit of the doubt. Maybe not from Florida State fans because they're brand new, but they have college football resumes that lend themselves to, like, yeah, man, these guys can coach. They're good. They've been good. They've been good at harder places to win than Florida State. So believe in them. Believe that these guys won't be embarrassed. These guys do not want their careers to end. So even if it's purely selfish for them to want their sides of the ball to be good, I think they are going to try to be good, and I just think Tony White is better than Adam Fuller. I think that's a plus positive. I think the combination of Gus Malzahn and Herb Hand is better than Alex Atkins, Mike Norvell. When you're talking about an offensive coordinator combo, they're better.
Would you have said that in 2023?
So at the end of 2023, probably, honestly, because they could not run the ball at all in 2023 at the end. Jordan Travis gets hurt, and it becomes a high school offense. A high school offense. And I'm talking about Charlotte more than in Gainesville with Rodemaker. But that didn't look great either with Rodemaker, and that was not a good Florida team. And it didn't look great then. And in hindsight, yeah, man, in hindsight, those were two pretty good indicators that this offensive line wasn't good enough. It wasn't being coached well enough or developed well enough or healthy enough. Whatever the problem was, it wasn't strong enough to be the centerpiece of an offense. And Mike Norvell didn't have an answer. And he didn't recognize what was happening. And that's not great. Now, he got slapped in the face. We'll see how he responded. But Malzahn and Herb Hand have never had anything like what we saw last year. It's not in their beings to put together a product like that. So, again, even if it's 8-4, 7-5, the offense is going to be much, much better. And the point being, the Alabama game, I think most people listening to this are probably chalking that up as a loss. That might be foolhardy. We don't know what Alabama is. We don't know what Florida State is. But you're not going to be stunned if Florida State loses that game. It doesn't derail the season if they lose that game because, quite frankly, not many of you are expecting them to win that game in the first place. It's what happens after Alabama that we're concerned about, how much they improve after Alabama that we're concerned about. And I just have belief that this roster and this coaching staff will not put together an embarrassing product. They're going to put together, at worst, a competent product. And a competent product in the ACC should be 5-3 at the absolute worst. So that's what I'm expecting. I know that wasn't the question, but as we sit here with preseason practice starting today, and I look at this roster and I look at this coaching staff, 5-3 in the ACC should be the absolute worst you do. It just should. I know you play at Clemson. Miami at home is not an unbeatable task, man. It's not this is Carson Beck. He lost with a lot better players and a lot better coaching than he's about to get in Coral Gables. And he figured out a way to lose games. And figured out a way to look horrible doing it on many a Saturday. Or at least average to mediocre on many a Saturday. Now he's playing with worse players for a worse coaching staff in front of a worse fan base in a worse stadium. Let's see what this looks like. So I'm not scared of Carson Beck at all, because what has he done other than win he won some games with Kirby Smart and a bunch of first-rounders on the other side of the ball. So this isn't it's not untenable to go 5-3, 6-2 in this conference. And I think that's the bare minimum. 5-3 is not too much to ask, right? Even after 1-7, improving by 4 games when you've devoted these kind of resources to the roster and the coaching staff isn't too much to ask. And if it is too much to ask, get somebody else to lead the program. But I don't think it's too much to ask, and I think they will take a significant step towards what we all want them to be, hopefully by 2026.
How was trivia night last night, Corey?
I don't want to brag, but we won.
Let's go.
Crushed it. Yep, we won. We crushed it. Buy Steph a drink. The reigning champs going into next week's trivia. So I hope anybody listening to this, I hope a few of y'all were there and got to see the show that we put on, because it was incredible. Was it the largest margin of victory since, I don't know. Look, it was like, what was the last Florida question? State, it was Florida State Clemson in Death Valley in 2013. Beautiful. It was kind of like that. I think we won by 3, which for this kind of trivia is really big. The last question was, I think we got it wrong. It was famous quotes of dead people, and it was a Princess Di quote that we did not know. But we knew the other ones. We got all the other ones right. We got FDR. We got, I think Kennedy was one. So we got all the other ones. We just did not get Princess Di. It was something about I don't lead with my head, I lead with my heart. Something like that. We didn't know that. We put, I think we put Nixon, which is funny to think about Richard Nixon leading with his heart. But whatever. We still won. Who cares? Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Go check out trivia next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Thursday night, bingo night. Daily lunch specials, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. weekdays for only $8.99. Comes with a side dish of your choice. And happy hour weekdays, 4 to 7 o'clock, and all day Sunday. Yeah, that's right. Even during NFL, everybody, because Bill loves you. CP, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Real quick, 11 years, head football coach, Auburn University, only 2 times Gus's offense was worse than 50th in scoring. And one was a COVID year. So yeah, that doesn't count. No. So one time. And was he ever like 128th? No. I mean, he had some, he had a lot in the 40s. He had 1, 2, 3, 4 seasons where he was in the 40s. What would Florida State?
Or I'm sorry, one of those
last
was in
year?
I'm sorry, that was wrong. 2 of those were at UCF. So only his worst year at Auburn that was not COVID was 2015. They were 75th. They averaged 27.5 points.
Is that when he was fired?
No, 2015.
Oh, okay. So they came back and were good.
Yeah.
So 1 year. And what this program wouldn't have given to be 75th in the country in scoring as opposed to 128th. But, yeah, so you said you kind of threw a lot of numbers out there. Some of them were factual, I guess. I don't exactly know what you were saying. You're saying he finished in the top 40 every year but one?
When he was at Auburn. In the top 50.
Okay. So if Florida State was 44th in the country last year in scoring, what would their record have been?
8-4.
I mean, at least 7-5, right?
Yeah.
So, again, I can't stress to you enough that when you finish 128th in scoring, or whatever Florida State was last year, that you cannot win games. You just cannot win games. It would be the equivalent of averaging 38 points a game in college basketball. It does not matter how much culture or fight or whatever you have instilled in your team. If they can't make points, if they can't get the ball into the basket, it does not matter. And if they can't shoot, they can't drive, there's no athletic, whatever the case may be, you have to be able to score. They could not score at all last year, which is why the hiring of Malzahn, the hiring of Herb Hand, the addition of Castellanos, Deuce Robinson, Squirrel White, Cromah, Sawchuk,
Luke
all those
Pettibone,
things,
Micah Pettis,
they all matter, right?
Adrian Medley. Yeah.
So the whole team on that side of the ball is different. The whole side of the ball is different. So I was talking about this on headlines too. Like what the defense, you're still going to have some stragglers, some carryover from last year. Who is the person from last year's offense that will contribute the most on this year's offense?
Landon Thomas?
Right. The freshman tight end that had like 16 catches.
Right.
Maybe Roydell Williams, if you count him. I don't know how much Roydell is going to play. But that's what you're talking about. You're talking about an offense that literally, out of the top 20 guys on the offense, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 2, played it all last year. And I'm not counting Jalen Lucas. So that's what it is a brand new side of the ball.
I know, but doesn't it cut both ways? It's also a whole bunch of new people that have never played side by side and not necessarily in this offense. I mean, I know Tommy has, Adrian Medley has.
Yeah. So that's when I think when I talk about the Alabama game, it's not like I'm dismissing it. I hope they win. They're not an underdog by 40 points, and it's an absolutely winnable game. But I am not expecting a team with literally 11 new players who have never played together, never played a single game together, to then go up against Alabama and just roll with a new coaching staff. It's a new offense with an entirely new starting 11, and I mean entirely new. So none of these guys have played a single down of college football together, so it will be a work in progress. So, yes, the Alabama game might not be pretty. You're going to have 2 scrimmages after that. By the Virginia game, which is game 4, they should be perfectly familiar with each other and ready to play college football, ready to play the last 9 games of the season. What helps, though, is that offensive line, the average age is 22 or 23. The quarterback has started 22 games. The running backs, the wide receivers, they've all played a bunch of college football, so they should be able to adjust quicker. So, again, if it doesn't look great against Alabama, that does not mean it can't find its rhythm very, very quickly after that. Yes, it does cut both ways in that you worry about the cohesiveness early on, but the season's longer than 12 games, man. I mean, the season's longer than 1 game. You're talking about a game in August. If this season breaks a certain way, and you got to have some luck, and you've got to be better than we think, you might be playing important games in December. 1 game in August doesn't define what this team in this season can be, especially because you do have guys that have proven they can be good college football players. It should be a solid team, right? Right?
Yeah.
Would you be surprised if it's not solid?
Yeah, I mean,
Right?
if they don't win
Wouldn't
7 games, I'll be shocked.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And nobody's sitting here saying Florida State fans should be content with a 7-5 season or even an 8-4, 9-3 season. This is Florida State, man. This isn't what you're accustomed to necessarily, especially if you grew up on it. But as Jeff pointed out, the last 10 years, half of the seasons have been losing seasons. This is not – it's not just a birthright that Florida State is going to be a top 5 team and have winning seasons all the time. Now, at the same token, as I pointed out, over the last 10 seasons, they've won 84 games. So they're averaging 8.4 wins a season. A couple of those are 13-win seasons, though. And a couple of them, there's a 3-win season in there and a 2-win season. So you've had it's been a roller coaster. But Gus Malzahn, Tony White, with this roster, and if you want to throw Mike Norvell in there, he's had one bad season in his whole coaching career. It was an abomination, but it was just one bad season. So maybe you give him the benefit of the doubt too. I get that you don't want to do that after 2-10, but when you're talking about Mike Norvell, Gus Malzahn, and Tony White, those are 3 dudes that have won a lot of football games or been a part of a lot of good football teams and good football players. You got to think, man, they're not going to sit there with their thumbs up their butt and be a bad football team. That would be more surprising to me. I mean, them being 5-7 would be more surprising to me than 9-3 or 10-2.
I mean, we just had a team that went 13-1, go 2-10. So I mean,
but it wasn't the same team.
I know, man, but it's
it wasn't. It was the same coaches. But I just can't imagine Gus Malzahn
going
having an
3-9.
Like
yeah, couldn't imagine. Yeah, I'm with you.
I know he just went 4-8 at UCF, but that was UCF, and it also wasn't the offense's fault. And he's not the head coach. The combination of Tony White and Gus Malzahn being incompetent, having incompetent sides of the ball, which essentially both sides of the Florida State team were last year, I can't fathom that. I don't think that's going to happen. Tony White, we sat with him and talked to him. Good dude, by the way.
Yes.
Sat down and had lunch with us, didn't he, on Tuesday, Aslan?
I interrupted his pre-meal prayer. I interrupted, though. I apologize to him, though.
Well, you didn't know that was happening.
Yeah.
You didn't know. It wasn't like he was sitting there praying and you said, hey, so how's Justin Cryer looking? Like you were talking and you didn't know that he was doing that. So you apologized. It was all good. Yeah. But that guy, he sat down unsolicited. We're just sitting there, you and I talking. He sits down and talks to us. Same with Papuchis. But he's a sharp guy, man. And I think these guys are going to really like playing for him. And I would be stunned if he had a bad defense. He doesn't have bad defenses.
Nope.
And he was at Syracuse when they had no right to have a good defense. And he had a pretty good defense. Kind of the same thing with Nebraska. From where they were, they had a good defense his 2 years there, a really good defense. But it's not like it's 1999, man, or 1997. Nebraska has no reason to expect they'll have a really good defense. But their defense was worlds better than Florida State with not nearly the kind of resources or talent level that Florida State should have. Gus Malzahn put together a much better offense each of the last 2 years, really, especially last year at UCF, than Mike Norvell did at Florida State. So they've taken big steps up in coordinators, coordinator / offensive line coach, and defensive line coach perhaps, but definitely offensive line coach. Let's hope that man, it looks, and it not hope. Let's expect that it will look different.
Tony White expects Darrell Jackson, to be one of the best defensive tackles in football, and that Earl Little, with his skill set and his abilities, quote, being around some draft choices, some guys who play NFL football, I see that in him. We almost got a whole part out of Tony White, too. He was kind of asked about what always seems to make his defenses succeed, and he thinks it's the way that he teach things. He talks about learning in concepts, Corey. It's not about memorization. It's learning things conceptually, and then that way you'll know 2-3 things that are going on. Also, if you understand the concept, even if you're confused, if you look around and you see where guys are lined up, that will kind of fill in the blanks for you. So he seems to obviously believe in what he's going to have this team run. They also asked about, the instant success and the desire to have them play fast, right? Play fast, play free, and being able to live with mistakes. And he talked about, listen, with the amount of freshman All-American that I've coached, he's like, he's like, I've had the opportunity. He corrected himself to not sound arrogant. He's like, I've had the opportunity to coach these freshman All-American. They're not scared to make mistakes. So we're not going to put people out there that are afraid to make mistakes. So they're going to play faster. They're going to have a better understanding where they have to be. And then when you hear Patrick Surtain talk about the defense last year, I think we got a little bit of a sense out of Patrick Surtain that he was almost amused at just how exclusively they ran press man coverage.
Okay.
That's the sense that I kind of, maybe it's totally in hindsight, but the way that he talked about things on Tuesday, where he's like, listen, man, we had some really, really good defenses, like really good, but we played with our back to the ball. Like we did not see the ball. So that's why we didn't have any turnovers. We're going to let these guys play with their instincts and with their eyes, and that's what you're supposed to do at Florida State. We're supposed to get really talented athletic players, and they're supposed to trust their instincts and make plays. That's the good. The part that makes me a little bit anxious, Corey, is that both Patrick Surtain and Tony White admitted in their own sort of way, they're very much in a Mike Norvell day before the game Dublin thing where it's really like our guys, but we'll find out what happens in the moment of truth. Because, I asked Surtain, I'm like, did you guys need to get Jeremiah Wilson after coming out of spring football? Did you look around and not see what you needed at cornerback? Or was he just too good to pass up? And he pretty much said a little bit of both. And then Tony White talked about, listen, athletically, we have the guys. It's about whether or not they can actually go out there and execute it now. And, I mean, to hear those guys say that they have the things in place, Corey, like the recipe, but that it might not be mixed properly yet. It's a bummer that it's Alabama, man. I guess part of it comes back to that. If we had these two gimme games and then Alabama, you probably have a completely different feeling about the season going into it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out differently, but we'd probably feel much different if we knew there was two warm-up games before Alabama. But back to that point, I just think, right, there's just still too many guys that have not really done this, at least on the defense, it seems.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, when you look at the defense, it's a lot of expectations and hope and not proven production. Yeah. The offensive line is literally the entire starting offensive line will be guys that are not just have been starters in college, they've been multi-year starters. And they have not been multi-year starters for Alex Atkins. They had to prove to other coaches around this country that they could play college football at this level, not just Alex Atkins in a COVID year. So, and I'm not trying to take shots at Darius Washington and Maurice Smith and the like, but, I don't know that those guys clearly weren't good enough by last year. They just weren't. They weren't good enough in 2024 to be a good offensive line. And Alex Atkins was never going to replace them and apparently develop them or get them better. Whatever was missing, it wasn't happening. But these guys, that entire starting offensive line from Pettibone, however we're going to say his name.
Bad to the bone.
Okay,
Bad to the bone.
Headlines told me Pettibone. So I thought Pettibone too. But either way, Medley, on down the line, all those guys have played a bunch of football for coaches not named Alex Atkins. So you got to think that they can produce at this level and at least be competent to solid. I don't need Walter Jones, man. I just don't need Abdul Bello. Abdul Bello, I love you, dog. You're a Nole. But I just need somebody that's competent. So these five guys, this collection of five guys, should be competent, and they're going to be competently coached.
Okay,
we
what about
absolutely
the defense?
know that.
What about the defense?
Yeah, you're right. So the point was, all those guys are proven. The defense, who is proven?
Right,
who is proven? Darrell Jackson, sort of. Yeah. The second half of last year, he was good. I think he was I retweeted something on Tuesday about, I can't remember if he was third or fourth in the country in QB pressures by a defensive tackle. He had 34 pressures, including 20 in the last 6 games, or something. Yeah, something like that. Like he was very high up in QB pressures by a defensive tackle. He was impactful as much as somebody on a 2-10 team can be impactful over the last half of last season. Other than him, who is it? You've got Herring and Thompson, who played a lot of football.
And Tony White says diverse skill set in that linebacker room, and he feels they'll be the heartbeat of the defense.
You hope so, right? And I do think those two guys are starters, but that's not guaranteed. We talked to Papuchis on Tuesday too. They have 6 or 7 guys that they think are pretty not interchangeable, but close in ability. That it's not a guarantee. It's not a slam dunk who the top 3 or top 4 are. Like it could be there could be some real competition there, but.
And they
Shaheem
did tell
Brown,
us, and sorry to interrupt, Corbett, and they did tell us when it comes to those 3 linebackers, they all don't need to be, they don't need 3 different guys. See,
right.
the 2 guys that are going to play off the ball. So there's always going to be there's always going to be almost like a 4th guy on the line of scrimmage, and it's going to be like the jack. It's going to be the outside linebacker, defensive end hybrid. So that guy obviously needs to have a little bit of a different skill set than the guy that's going to be, 10 yards off the ball at conventional linebacker depth. But back to your point, sorry.
But yeah, you definitely think that Thompson. Tony White said that Thompson is as in good a shape and as quick as he's been since when he was like the freshman All-American at Syracuse. That's good to hear. He's healthy. Herring has played a ton of football, made a ton of tackles. You like that. Other than that, you have Omar Graham, who is not. He's played football. He hasn't been good here though. He hasn't been. I mean, that's not to say he's been horrible. He has not been a good, by the definition of the word good, he has not been a good football player at Florida State. He's been average-ish to below average at times, but not good. Cryer, Nicholson, guys that have not done a ton. They played some, but what have they really accomplished? And then you go on the back end. You have Shaheem Brown, who's coming off a downer of a year. Earl Little, who's done next to nothing in his college career. Whoever the other corner is, whether it's Quindarius, Ricky Knight,
Rawls,
Kai
probably.
Bates, Jabril Rawls, all these guys have like less than 20 tackles in their career. And then you have Jeremiah Wilson. So when you're looking at the defense, you have Darrell Jackson, Jeremiah Wilson, Shaheem Brown, Herring, and Thompson. Those guys have played a bunch of football. Other than that, that's 5 of them. There's 6 other guys going to be on the field, and you're probably going to be playing 10 or 12 other guys through the course of a game. What have they done? Not much. That's the real question mark there. James Williams is a question mark. Could be awesome. He's a question mark. Jason Jenkins, the opposite of what James Williams, a defensive end. Have no idea what you're going to get out of him. McCray, no idea. He's coming from Western Kentucky. It doesn't mean they can't be good. We just don't know. They haven't done it at this level yet. So that's what I think that's going into Alabama, what that defense will look like is what I do trust that the offense, even if it doesn't do great against Alabama, will be a good offense by the time the season is through. It'll be a productive offense. No idea what the defense. Could be mediocre. Could be this, I don't know, man, the second best in the ACC. Literally, that's the wiggle room there from what it could be with Tony White.
On Jason Jenkins, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but that's the rub when you go into with the portal. But when you go into a season with brand new coaches in a brand new scheme and a completely revamped roster and depth chart, no idea what this group is. But I do know that there will be some stragglers from Earl Little, Shaheem Brown, Darrell Jackson, Omar Graham, Quindarius Jones, guys like that. They were here last year, and they're going to be counted on to produce. I don't know that you could tell me anybody from the offense last year that's going to be counted on to produce like even Earl Little on defense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that there's a guy that totaled more than 100 yards of offense last year for the Florida State team that will be counted on to produce at all, that would even get on the field because there's so many new additions. Defense, you're going to have to make do, and you got to have to hope that some guys that didn't play much last year, didn't play well last year, take a big leap.
Yeah, a lot of that's going to fall on Patrick Surtain and Evan Cooper, and again, those guys right on the back end of the defense. On Jason Jenkins, Tony White says, twitchy, long, athletic. Those are the defensive ends.
Healthy?
Yeah.
Did he say healthy, ready to go?
No, he said that they got to do right by him, though, and, not rush it back. But, he's really appreciative of the support staff and the trainers. They've been doing a good job with him. But, he said that he's the defensive end, defensive tackle skill set that he has. Those are the kind of guys that play on Sundays, and that he can play anywhere on the defense. I mean, they say he could literally play any position on the defense, including Jack.
Corner. He could play corner.
Every position.
Okay, that counts. Corner, safety.
Every
Put him in
position.
safety, Tony. Yeah. You coward. Put your 270-pound defensive lineman at safety if he can play anywhere on the defense. You could do that against Kent State, and you're still going to win.
You know, there's a guy that he mentioned that
Let's hear it.
floored me, Jaden Jones.
Huh.
He's like 6'6", 240-pound defensive end. I mean, he got injured in JUCO 2-3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I think he's been this might be his third year at Florida State. He's just never been able to kind of get healthy, but he's got a great build. And Tony White offered him up as one of the guys in the mix that they're going to be looking at on the defensive line. And that was another thing too, where he mentioned that I asked him, I'm like, is it like 5 guys, 6 guys that everyone's got to earn their position, but obviously you're going to go into camp kind of having an idea of where certain people are going to fit. And he wouldn't commit to a number, but he did say there are a certain amount of guys that they're going to sort of cross-train so they know what other positions they might have to fill in if a guy gets kind of dinged up. So they seem to have a good idea, at least, Corey, that like the pieces they have and where they can fit into this defense, despite the fact that they've not really done it in an actual football game. But listen, you have to have a plan, obviously, to deploy these guys in some semblance of fashion to put them up for success. And it sounds like he's got a pretty good pulse for it so far going into the first day of practice.
All right. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't realize that Jaden Jones was still on the team. Jaden, no slight to you, although that might sound like one. And it is. I didn't know you were on the team. I don't know that's going to excite a lot of Florida State fans to think that the defensive coordinator is excited about Jaden Jones, but we have no idea what that dude is. None. Yeah. Like, he didn't play last year, hardly at all. He didn't contribute at all.
Not at all. He played in 5 games in 2023, did not play at all in 2024. It was in JUCO before that.
Yeah, so we'll see. Usually by year 3, after a JUCO stint, if you still haven't contributed going into your third year D1, it's not going to happen. But hey, they're anomalies. He might be one. I'm not counting on him, but hopefully it happens. But again, I think there's not a lot of depth on that defensive line. My biggest worry when it comes to this team is there at the defensive line, the line of scrimmage in general, but the defensive line in particular. And yeah, man, they're not going to be overly talented up there where you're just going to be like, yeah, just roll out bodies. You got bodies for days, you'll be fine. It ain't like that at Florida State right now. So if you suffer a few injuries up front to your starters or your contributors, you're going to be in a world of hurt. But most teams are. But Florida State certainly isn't immune to that. If they stay healthy on the line of scrimmage, especially the defensive line of scrimmage, they should be competent to pretty good. And that's all you're hoping for in year 1 of this rebuild. And that's exactly what it is a rebuild. But luckily, it can be rebuilt very quickly. I don't know how often the Arizona States and the Indianas of the world are going to happen. But I dare say that I think this current team, this roster, right now, is as talented as the Indiana one was last year. And I think the coaching staff is better. So it's not outrageous to think that you could have a nice run, and now you don't have the schedule that Indiana had last year. I get it. They played one decent team and they lost. But I shouldn't say one decent team, one good team and they lost. But man, this team is good enough. These coaches are good enough that you should be optimistic going into this season. If I had an overarching sentiment, Aslan, as we start spring practice or summer practice, preseason practice today in a few hours, 3 p.m., whenever it is, it is good. It's okay to be optimistic. It's okay to have hope. There's nothing wrong with it. You are not an idiot for feeling like your roster, the roster of this team, is good enough to compete for Charlotte. Not to get there. It's not Charlotte or bust, but to compete for it. That's not too much to ask. That's not too much to expect. Not with the money you're spending on this roster and in this coaching staff. It's just not. So let's hope that it gets there. And by the way, we got to see the speaking of hope and money, the stadium, the progression of the stadium. Aslan, what'd you think?
I don't know. I didn't see it. What are you talking about? What did you see?
You didn't go look? Oh, because we were up in the varsity club. I went and looked at the out the window to the The chair back's being installed. It looks like it's coming along, buddy.
I saw people complaining last week that the chair backs are going in crooked. It looked like they said that there was unequal gaps between certain rows, and I was like, incredible.
Well, I didn't see that from my vantage point. They looked fine to me. But hey, you know what? If they're crooked, they're crooked.
Yeah. Maybe
I think
I'll bust in the doke today before practice and do the video thing about the seat. That's going to be my.
There's plenty of people in Doak, I can promise you that. They are rushing to the finish line, folks.
Decisions. Power or speed, quality or quantity. How about both? How about all? You don't have to sacrifice anything when you choose Brunt Workwear. You're not only going to get durable, well-crafted, resilient workwear, but also really stylish choices that allow you to go ahead and pivot right from the job site to your kids' activities, running errands, or meeting up for drinks after work. And since Brunt Workwear is geared for you, the real worker, they know you got no time to waste. You need those work boots to deliver once you get them in the mail and you lace them up. So enjoy the peace of mind of work boots and gear that are ready to go right out of the box. Got that broken and comfortable feeling day one to give you the comfort and security you want. Use the promo code WAKEUP. I'm going to say it one more time. Wake up. It's all one word. Over at bruntworkwear.com to save $10 off your order. I'm going to say the website again, everybody. You ready? bruntworkwear.com. Use that promo code to save $10 off your order. And then last thing to wrap up the football stuff. I feel like we might not be talking about Zach Arnett enough. And shout out to Ira. I think he actually put a story up the other day.
He did. Yeah, he did. So it's up there on the site today. And he also asked Norvell about him.
Yeah, and Tony White said it's been truly awesome to have him around, and it sounds like he's not shy. Like he's been giving them a lot of feedback. It sounds like things that he doesn't like that they're doing and ways they can kind of improve it. He played for Tony White at New Mexico, so he's known him for a long time. 'Cause I remember the Jim Leavitt injection midseason in 2019.
Oh, yeah. Who could forget?
Who
could forget, Aslan?
I know that did not work out great, and I'm not trying to draw too much of a parallel to it, but I think everything that you hoped that Jim Leavitt was going to do, these guys were much more aligned. That was Harlan Barnett not coming from a 3-4, and then Jim Leavitt showing up parachuting in the middle of a season and being like, yeah, we're going to do this now. Whereas you've got a guy like Zach Arnett that knows how Tony White operates, has been a head coach in the SEC, was an analyst at Ole Miss last year. So he's been around success and knows what Tony White wants. And that's another voice that you kind of need when you do have a bunch of inexperienced pieces that have not played side by side. So that might be a kind of an X factor that we can't fully appreciate right now. So don't blame us for not talking enough about it. But if this defense ends up being maybe a little bit ahead of the curve or ahead of schedule, it might be because they have pretty much another guy that could easily be a defensive coordinator at least at a group of five school for sure. He was at UNLV, but definitely belongs at this level, it feels like.
Yeah, man, the more smart people you have in the room, I don't know that it could ever be a negative. I think, and also the fact that they know each other and trust each other is a big deal. There's not going to be any backstabbing or vindictiveness. Like it's straight up, they care for each other. He he played for Tony White, you said in college, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so man, that's same thing with. It'll be interesting. I know this isn't what you asked about, but I do like the Arnett hire. It's not flashy, but it could be a big deal. We'll never be able to quantify how big a deal it is, but you have a Power 5 type defensive mind that's working on your staff. That's a good big deal. All the smarter voices and brains you can get into a room, the better. And the fact that I think Tony White is open to not second guessing as in you do it after the fact, but first guessing. I think he's open to dialogue. I do. I think all good leaders are. I think all good leaders are open to being told somebody doesn't agree with them and have an actual dialogue about what's the right thing to do. And I think Arnett could bring that to that room. And it's the same thing on the other end, and we'll talk about this obviously much more as the season goes on. How bizarre it is that Mike Norvell owes his career to Gus Malzahn, legitimately. I don't know if people listened to the interview I did last week with Norvell or read the story, but if Malzahn doesn't hire Norvell, when he hires Norvell in 2007 at Tulsa to be a GA, Norvell goes back to be like the wide receivers coach at Central Arkansas, and who in the world knows where his career goes? Mm-hmm. But he would not be the head coach at Florida State if he did not jump on the Gus bus in 2007, right when that Tulsa offense was taking off and setting records, and everybody kind of their careers blew up because of it. Blew up in a good way. So what's that like now that Norvell is handing Malzahn the olive branch? What's that like? Because it's going to be an interesting dynamic, right? That's not normal for a guy that you kind of owe your whole career to. And look, Norvell earned it on his own too. Todd Graham, doing stuff with Todd Graham, but his foot was in the door because of Gus Malzahn. His foot was in the door in Division I coaching because of Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn is now an offensive coordinator at a Power 5 school because of Mike Norvell. So what's that dynamic going to look like? It's going to be an interesting, and how deferential will Norvell be to Malzahn, or vice versa, which is probably more important. Like, does Malzahn view? It's interesting. I was listening to Mark Maron talk about Mark Maron, who does the WTF podcast, who's kind of the pioneer of podcasting. He was talking about, he had Neil Brennan on. Neil Brennan, if you guys don't know, is a comedian who kind of was not the brains, but partly the brains behind the Chappelle Show.
Yeah, he's one of the key writers.
He's like Dave Chappelle's best friend. They grew up together. He wrote a lot of those jokes for his stand-up special. Obviously was an executive producer and was one of the creators of the Chappelle Show. And so Mark Maron knew Neil Brennan when Neil Brennan was a 20-year-old comic. Maybe even before that, when his brother was a comic and Neil Brennan was like 17. So when Mark Maron had Neil Brennan on his podcast, this would have been probably 8 or 9 years ago, Mark Maron basically made fun of him for an hour and treated him like a little brother. Like, not even a little brother, like a little pissant, like a guy he didn't even have the time for, that like just made fun of him and mocked him for an hour. And after it was over, Neil Brennan told Mark Maron, like, hey, man, that's fine and all, but there's no way I'm letting you air that podcast. That does not see the light of day, because I've earned a place now in my life where you don't get to talk to me or make fun of me like that. Like, I've accomplished more than you have. So who are you to treat me like I'm beneath you, or I'm like your little cousin? Just because you're older than me or knew me when I was 18, I'm Neil Brennan, man. I created one of the most popular streaming shows of all time, and you have a podcast. So, but Mark Maron even admitted he was right. He was right. I was wrong to treat him like that. I was wrong to talk to him like that. But I still perceived him as the guy that I knew when he was 17 and I was a comic in New York. How much of Malzahn is like that with Norvell, do you think? Probably not much, right? But you never know.
Yeah.
Like, does Malzahn still think of Mike Norvell as the guy that he gave him his big break?
No. The guy that broke down film, did cut-ups for him at Tulsa as a GA, yeah, right?
And now he's telling me to shut my mouth in front of 20 grown men? Not that I don't think Norvell's like, shut your mouth, Gus.
Yeah. That
would be a weird exchange. But, like, he's telling me to quiet down, or he's arguing back or telling me to be quiet. Like, who is he to talk to me like that when I gave – so that is a dynamic that isn't normal, and it's going to be interesting how they navigate that. I think they'll be fine. They're both grown men. One's in his 60s, one's in his 40s. I think they'll be – but it's – you never know until you're in it that's exactly going to be like. So, we'll see. I know – I can tell you this. There's only one Florida State podcast in the world that brings up Mark Maron and Neil Brennan.
That's right.
But, so you guys, this is what you pay for. This is what you get. And I hope you enjoyed that analogy, because I'm not even sure it made sense or fit, but it passed some time.
On the way out, shout out to Luke Laux. Luke,
oh man,
cooking,
he's putting
man.
it together, isn't he?
Got one of the top 75 recruits in the class, a big man, 7-footer, like a legit big man, 7-footer, 4-star center, Marcus Ponder. Committed to Florida State over offers from Indiana, Illinois, Providence, Cincinnati, Texas, and Miami. Tells our rivals Joe Tipton, which that's what we call On3's recruiting arm now. We're calling them rivals because we took over. And not Warchant, but, Shannon Terry and the folks in Nashville at the corporate office. He told Joe Tipton, Marcus Ponder, Corey Clark, that honestly, FSU recruited me the hardest. They came to every single one of my games in the spring and summer live periods for both AAU and high school. So Luke not just, trying to talk a strong game. He's out there drinking coffee and vitamin energy and going to all these games and putting palm to palm, flesh to flesh, and making things work. So that's incredibly impressive to me. And in all seriousness, I wasn't really trying to be too facetious there, but that's a really good get for a program that we don't really have a good idea of just how much resources are going to be kind of given in this new revenue sharing age, and obviously what they came off last year and a first-year coach. But Luke seems to have a good grasp of what he wants, and he's getting guys.
And according to our own Ira Schoffel, he compares him to a modern-day Shaq. Like LSU Shaquille O'Neal. That's what Ira sees in him. Okay. Not to put any extra pressure on our man Ponder. Okay. But yeah, man, he said when you watch the film, and I only watch like 3 minutes of his snippets, but man, he is aggressive, and when he gets the ball near the rim, he is going to dunk it all over your face. Like he is aggressive and physical and violent, which is awesome. That's what you want. You just wonder, and it got me thinking when he compared him to LSU Shaq. Now, to keep that in mind, folks, that was 35 years ago that Shaquille O'Neal was a freshman at LSU. Like, legitimately, at 34, 35 years. Chris Jackson, soon to be Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
That's right.
Stanley Roberts, Dale Brown coaching. Shaquille O'Neal was unbelievable from the time he played college basketball. But you wonder if Shaquille was coming up today, in today's era of basketball, with the exact same game, incredible athlete. Guys, I know you all think of Shaq as being like kind of a chubby, fatter, 7-foot dude. He was a incredible athlete.
Dancing bear.
He was unbelievable. Yeah. He was 7 feet, 260 or whatever he was, and ran like a point guard. 320. And jumped like a shooting guard. It was unbelievable, the athlete he was. Yeah. But would anybody care if he couldn't shoot? You know what I mean? Like, oh, wait, do you shoot threes? Yeah. Can you shoot a corner three? No, I just dunk it. Yeah, we want you to shoot a corner three. Can you shoot free throws? No. I mean, I'm not going to airball them, but I'm not going to make many of them. Oh, that's not good either. Like, you wonder what Shaq's game would have translated like in today's game. Yeah. But even still, if you're in – obviously he's not going to be Shaquille O'Neal. But a rim-running center that's an athlete that is violent around the rim, you'll take those all day. Yeah, I don't know if he's a program changer or not, but that's a real, as you said, that's a really good commit. And Ira Schoffel puts his stamp of approval all over this kid. Nice. Modern-day Shaq. Modern-day Shaq, everyone. So get excited for next year when you have him coming into Tallahassee. I'm curious. I listed off all those schools that offered him, and he chose Florida State over. And, he said that FSU recruited him the hardest, so that was obviously a factor. But, there's other factors that earns commitments at this point in the game. So I wonder how Lonnie mentioned something about, and I asked her about how revenue share is going to be, and shout out the softball team is going to be over in England in a week or whatever. Yeah. So taking the game global, and just asking her, because they didn't recruit a single player out of the portal in softball. They just retained everybody they wanted to retain, and then went and got a bunch of freshmen. And kind of asked her, like, is it easier to get freshmen on campus and then to keep them as opposed to kind of chasing the portal? And she's like, well, not necessarily, but kind of. And we want to let the transfer portal and the revenue share sort of the dust settle. But she's like, we've had success in it, and Michael Alford supports women's sports, and she said something along the lines of, if there's a player that can put us over the top, he would be receptive to that, was kind of what she was hinting at. Right.
And I don't know if our guy Shaq 2.0 is kind of that, but I do wonder if this is one of those maybe wild cards that, Luke has as a first-year coach, where he can either go to Michael Alford or whoever are some of the benefactors of the basketball program and be like, listen, like, I've got some good pieces, but this guy can make us compete for, like, first round, double bye in the ACC tournament. And if we win a game in Charlotte or wherever the hell the tournament's going to be, that probably gets us to the national tournament. I wonder if, like, this is one of those kind of pieces where maybe they, redlined the engine, if you will, and pushed it a little bit to get a guy of this caliber. That was. Well,
I think there's also, again, I haven't dug much into him, to the Ponder kid. No relation to Christian, by the way. But I think,
why do you say that with such confidence?
I just assume. You're right. I shouldn't assume that. I just feel like it would have come out. Christian would have tweeted, "Congrats,
Fair.
go Noles,"
Fair.
to his nephew. he does have a connection with the staff at Florida State.
Yep.
I can't remember exactly how Ira broke it down, but there is a reason that Florida State kind of had an in with him, which is good. Whatever it takes.
His coach is a brother of one of the assistants on the Florida State staff. His
helps,
high school
right?
coach. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps. That's not a big deal. So that's good, but that doesn't just guarantee. There's a lot of brothers of coaches all around this country. It doesn't guarantee you get that coach's best player. So yeah, it does take recruiting, and maybe it does take a little extra. We have no idea what kind of money or salary this kid's going to get, but we do know that Luke Laux put in the work. It doesn't sound like, Aslan, that he just assumed, oh, I have an assistant on my staff who's the brother of his coach. We don't have to work hard for him. It sounds like they went all in for him.
Yeah.
And as they used to say back in the day, showed him the love. And that stuff matters, and you do like that Luke Laux is making strides, making waves, however you want to phrase it. That's good news. What is it going to mean in the short term? No idea. But the more top 75, to put that in perspective, everyone, as good as we think Florida State's recruiting in football has been, especially compared to coming off a 2-10 season, I don't know that they have one top 75 player in their commitment list. Maybe one or two at the most out of 22. Florida State basketball, who has not been really relevant since COVID, just got a top 75 recruit with a brand new coach who's never coached a game in college. So that shows you that maybe there's something to like here about Luke Laux and his staff and the way they recruit and put together a roster.
I wish there was something current going on right now that I could talk about so that people would know that we recorded this show. It is Wednesday, everybody.
There was midnight. An earthquake in Russia, like an 8.8.
Apparently, I think in an hour from now, which will be dated by the time this publishes, I think like Hawaii is supposed to get a wave, which is crazy, right? Like an 8.8 earthquake hits off the coast of Russia, and they can tell you like, all right, in 6 hours, you're going to get a really big wave. Possible tsunami.
But in Thailand back in 2004, whenever that was, no warning.
Right. Yeah.
For people that are too young to know, maybe we get some college kids that listen to this. I think it was Thailand. I can't remember was it Thailand that was hit the worst.
I know,
but
Japan
there was a tsunami in 2000. I think it was 2004.
It is correct. Yeah. Indian Ocean earthquake.
Tell people, Aslan, how many people died in that tsunami from 20 years ago. I thought you were just on the Wikipedia page. That's why I asked you.
I need to scan it. There's a lot of numbers, the date, the magnitude of it, the time it hit. There's a lot of numbers, the size of the tsunami, massive waves.
You are not going to believe it. I'm just telling you folks this right now. You're not going to believe the number that Aslan's about to tell you, but it was incredible.
The waves were up to 30 meters tall, which means 100 feet high, everybody. So, I mean, I can't,
Yeah.
I mean, is that taller than Doak? Anyways, 227,000
people died.
Yeah. In 14 different countries. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'd never seen a tsunami. You'd heard of tsunamis, and you always think of like, it's a 100-foot wave. What does that look like? But, this was the first one I remember from my lifetime, which there was actually video of. And it's like, oh, my. When you see the footage of the water back off the beach, like go towards the ocean, and people are all like on the beach going, isn't this crazy? Look, there's no water here. What happened? And then you see the water like rushing into the villages and the cities. It is jaw-dropping. And I always wondered, how in the world do people die from tsunamis? Just climb up to a roof or something. When you see that and you see the rushing water in those streets and the cars and everything, you're like, oh, my gosh, they're not wrong. Tsunamis are dangerous. So hopefully everybody in Hawaii with 8 hours warning got to high ground and were able to withstand this, and there wasn't anything serious. But, yeah, tsunamis are dangerous, everyone. That's Seminole headlines for today. This isn't even Seminole headlines. That's Wake Up Warchant for today. You got the Neil Brennan, Mark Maron news, and then you got me telling you that tsunamis are dangerous. What else do y'all need?
Indonesia bore the brunt of it seems like, in terms of the casualties.
Yeah.
Just want to clear that up.
Thank you for that, Aslan.
And then to go out on not a complete downer, Shout out to Greg Allman, I think from my hometown paper, or at least he was at one point, Tampa Bay Times.
Not Greg Allman.
Right.
The Allman Brothers. Greg
Sweet,
Allman.
Sweet Melissa, right?
Yeah.
Randy Shannon, hanging out, coaching on the sidelines of Jeff Cameron and Tom Lang's Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, there you go, Randy.
Maybe him. I wonder, that'd be awesome. A Bucks-Chargers Super Bowl. Randy Shannon versus Adam Fuller.
Let's go. Get the band back together.
Yeah. All right, let's go watch practice for 10, 15 minutes, Corey, and make some really bold observations. We will probably also do a mailbag tomorrow. So head over to the warchant.com Tribal Council. Pepper your questions in there. That way we don't have to sit here and fake 50 minutes of observations based off of watching. And I'm not complaining, just telling you the reality of it. And then the interviews we're going to get afterwards. So it's a team effort, everybody. Join the team at warchant.com. Get involved in the show. We love it. He's Corey Malzahn. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com.